Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah, talking with Tammi. My guest, Will Kesselman, is here, and I am so grateful that he's decided to join me today. So, Will, tell the people who you are and a little bit about what it is that you do.
So first off, thank you for having me. I do appreciate it, seriously. So my name again is Will Kesselman. I am the president and founder of Control and Power Strategy, which is a company that's known for probably being the only one of its kind that helps parents deal with unprofessional child welfare or CPS investigators so they can protect their kids in situations that can get a little dicey, let's say. And so my experience is I have 14 years plus experience as a child protective specialist or a child welfare investigator. There's a whole bunch of titles people use. I've served on a number of different units that are elite units. And so that's my area of expertise. And part of what we do for the consulting is we talk about procedure. So we're not lawyers. We don't pretend in any way, shape, or form to do what we don't do. What we know is procedure. We know child protective procedure, and we're able to help guide parents, many parents to date, over the last 6 months, actually, in terms of how to handle an investigation, certain bumps along the road, what to look out for, how to handle it, and different other types of situations, domestic violence, and so on and so forth.
Awesome. That is awesome. So, as you were doing this job for 14 years, what was the impression upon you that made you know that you needed to, I guess, be on the other side of it, and that you really wanted to help parents?
So I don't view it so much as the other side. I view it as empowerment. I've always been a proponent or someone who really pushes empowerment, right? I may have mentioned, I think off camera to you, that I've been through some bullying situations, and that was what really propelled me to go into this field. I learned to empower myself, and I empower others. When I do my investigations, I don't just go in there, on a horse and pony with whatever. I try and be respectful. I try and meet people where they are, talk to them like proper people, which is really important. And there are times when I can say, look, this is the situation. You have to handle it in a certain way. But at the end of the day, it's bedside manner. It's speaking to people like they're people. And that really is part of the empowerment. It's not just sort of getting lost in, well, I'm the investigator and I'm this and I'm that. No, it's really, really important. And that's really what I want to do, is give people a way that they can be empowered, still be respectful to the investigator, but that they know how to handle, whether it's a knock on their door, whether it's follow-up visits, whether it's they're given a service plan, which is a plan where they have to follow certain things, and how to handle that so it meets their own needs as well, because they want to be able to work, feed their family, keep doing what they're doing because they're trying to better themselves, right? The whole point of being here is empowerment and well-being and unleashing your true self and everything else. So, I'd like to say I don't own, I can't coin the term, you do, but at the same time, I like to provide my slice, which is what I know in terms of child welfare procedure.
Yes, that is good, because the thing is it's something that you don't know you need until you need it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like car insurance. You don't know you need it until you do. You might pay for it for, I don't know, in my case, 10 years and never use it. And then when you need it, it needs to be there.
Well,
and
there
that
also
to me that's why I was going to say that to me, it's just like that with what you do. It's like, you don't know you need somebody to help you, to advocate for you until you do.
Yeah. And it's also sometimes there are professionals who are more in it, like foster parents. They also have to deal with the skills and knowledge that I have to empower themselves, whether it's the biological parent who's sort of uneasy or has a tiff with the foster parent who has their kid, or they're trying to complain or whatever, or even traveling professionals also. They see this a lot more. And so as you said, certain groups don't see it, but other groups see it a bit more often. And so I try and be as helpful as I can, because people need to know the information.
Yes, and the thing is one of the things I wanted to bring out because as we have had conversation, it just seems like the communities that need you the most are
Yes.
probably the ones that are the most skeptical. How do you have a plan to deal with that? How do you plan to um, try to allow people to see that you are not the enemy, but you
Yeah.
are actually friend?
Well, I try to go in as many podcasts. I mean, you may raise a very important point. I try and go to as many podcasts as I can. I'll talk to anyone, anywhere. It doesn't matter. Um, like I mentioned to you, even off air, is part of my biggest what I feel that like the most is being able to help those who really need the most help, which unfortunately are people who are of a lower socioeconomic background. So poor people, people in poorer neighborhoods, possibly the projects or those kinds of places. Um, and even this week, there are a few people that, and I was able to, give them a plan because I felt that I wanted to help them. And when they said, look, they can't afford whatever, and that's fine. I'm willing to be open-minded, but at the same time, they were willing to also put in the work to help themselves, and that's what's really most important is people seeing my willingness to meet them where they are. To be really honest, when we speak about, like we said, lower, people of lower socioeconomics, we're talking, unfortunately, people of color, Latinx, African Americans, so on and so forth. And so my plan really is to not just speak to everyone, but people who I come across, I'm more likely to help them, even if it's a 15-minute, freebie, whatever. I'm more likely to get, my name out there. Ultimately, I want to. My brand is empowerment, clear cut, and so ultimately, I want to be able to hire those who've empowered themselves, and then have these people who've empowered themselves, who've struggled and pushed, to help them help others, to show them that it's possible. And this is the CPS procedure, the child welfare procedure, and to understand it and to know it, to be able to navigate the system so that it works
Yes,
for everybody.
yes, that is something because that's something that's definitely needed because there are, I mean, I have dealt with CPS just because I guess, for lack of a better term, I fostered a young lady that they were pulling out the home because she lied about her stepfather that
Mm,
raised her. And so I had the occasion to allow her to stay in my house because her mother asked me if, she could stay, and she did stay in my house. And I could see why they were having the problems that they had. But I did get a chance to have a conversation with this young lady and really speak to her and really, try to help her to see that that kind of stuff was not good, because it was not good because they actually, put this man in jail behind some lies. And
wow.
so, yeah, so I could see how this kind of thing that you do,
Yeah,
empowerment, would really help people because, you don't know what to do when those people come to your house.
that's right.
You know,
That's right.
you don't know what to do.
Yeah,
They're so,
and
yeah.
they hold the power. They are investigators. They're government agents. They hold power, and so it's either two instincts really. The first is I'm not opening the door, or the second instinct is I'll open the door and give them everything they want. But if you give everything they want, sometimes it can be misinterpreted because
Yes,
everyone uses language differently, right? So the same
yes,
word can have different meanings to different people. And
yes,
and obviously not just different people, but backgrounds, upbringings. I'm originally from
yes,
Canada, right? So
yes,
my use of language is not the same as yours, even if I were to grow up next door to you. Okay.
yes, yes,
So there is all that. And then there's the added stuff in terms of what the investigators are looking for and looking at. And
yes,
people are like, well, we'll give over the records, or well, we'll do this, that, or a third. And those things can land someone in trouble only because it can be misinterpreted as, oh, well, the person, the family, let's say the parent at the home, right, opens the door. The investigator comes in. The parent is a little bit, cheesed off. They're annoyed, right? And so they might be a little bit aggressive, or their tone of voice might be a little bit agitated or whatever. And then the investigator is like, well, this is a bit weird. it's a little aggressive. And then maybe there's an accusation of domestic violence or something else to boost or couple with the level of being aggressive or that kind of stuff. So
Yes.
people have to be really careful, not just to give in. Obviously, respect is respect, right? But people have to always be careful and respectful, but also careful what they're saying to make sure that it's sort of conveyed the right way. It's the use of words is sort of understood by everybody in the same way.
Yeah. See, and that, yeah. Yeah, and that can be a problem just
Yeah.
because, I mean, we got to tell the truth here, right?
Yeah.
Just because in a lot of societies and marginalized societies and POC communities, there's such a stigma. And then also, I don't care what people say, the way the treatment is different.
Yeah.
The way that they would walk into somebody that looks like me's house and the way that they walk into your house would be totally different. And
Yeah.
even the way that they view, exactly, unfortunately, in the way that they view, because you could have just got home from work and you was tired, you know what I mean? And you didn't feel like all that stuff. So that's going to color the way that you respond.
Yeah.
But it might be, because here's the thing that I've gotten in the past is, oh, she's an ABW.
Mhm.
And I'm not an ABW, and I wasn't even at that time.
Yeah.
It was just that I was a human, having a human experience,
Yeah. Yeah.
and having a human reaction.
Yeah.
But this is the way that, I would be looked upon as an ABW. You know what that is? And angry Black woman.
Okay, I wasn't sure the A. The B and the W I got, and I wanted to
Angry
make
Black
sure I
woman.
knew it before I said something.
Whereas my counterpart might have the same type of reaction, but
That's
she
right.
wouldn't be looked at in that way.
Or even an
You
angry
see,
Black
and
man.
that is the same thing.
Yeah.
So you've got that, all that kind of stuff going on that does play a role in this area.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's something I truly believe that we need to address.
Yeah.
It's almost like the police thing. And we could go all day with that stuff, but it's a real thing. People try to sweep it under the rug. They try to say it doesn't exist, all this, but that is a bunch of bullshit. It does exist and is real. And we see it on a daily basis.
Yeah, it does exist.
And so I think people like you really would be an asset to help people to navigate these things, especially people, BIPOC people of color, because this is negatively affecting that community.
Very much so.
And the thing is you don't know what to do. It's just like you
That's
said
right.
In the book. It's like they come to your door and they're talking about they want to come in your house and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know about you, but for me, you ain't coming to my house. Not unless I invite you or I told you could come, but that's just not gonna happen. And so but you don't realize that those things start to become strikes against you, especially if you look a certain way.
It can. I mean, I don't want to say everybody. I don't want to say everything.
No. We can't say everybody, but we can say a large percentage.
We can say it's a problem.
Yeah, we can say that is an issue. But yeah, so just the fact that you are doing this to help people, in that area, it's like the heart that you have for this is amazing. Do you have people that are working with you, or are you solely doing it by yourself right now, or how's that looking for you?
So right now it's solo, but I do have people that I sort of, I help them, they help me with certain things.
Gotcha.
And I'm building a network because I'm trying to build the network so that it's nice and solid.
Yes.
And, hopefully hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months to be able to hire a number of people. And I'll be able to let you know with my milestones over the course of the next 3 to 6 months.
Okay,
So,
we're gonna take hopefully out.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're just gonna say, this is it. This is
Okay.
happening.
All right.
You've drawn a line in the sand and you are working it out. It is happening.
I have a whole plan. So yes, I hear you.
I'm so excited. I love to see it when people have plans and they actually come together. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it will be.
So,
It will be. But
so
like you
how
said, in
does,
terms of the knock on the door, right? In terms of what to do,
Mhm,
not to do, and in terms of strikes and everything else, right? So
mhm,
even if someone like yourself, you say, okay, I'm not letting them in. And like I mentioned, you're cooking, the kids are yelling with each other, and you're like, well, I don't want someone coming into my house and seeing all this right now.
right.
So the biggest issue is at some point they have to come in. If they don't come in, they'll get a court order. And that's where things can get really tricky, really, really interesting, and really, really quickly, like really quickly. So it doesn't mean give in, but it does mean they're supposed to leave a note at your door. They're supposed to call you. Call them back. There's no harm in calling them back. If you don't like them and you want to say not nice things after the phone call, that's fine, right? But at least give them a call back and see what's going on and meet them halfway, because you really can de-escalate the situation and empower yourself by just doing some basic stuff. And that really is a big deal. It can go such a long way, honestly.
Honestly. So what places are you targeting as far as places where you see that people need the most help?
Well, I'm seeing people need the most help almost everywhere. But right now, we're targeting primarily the South. So Florida, also California, but Florida, Texas, Arizona, the southern states, some in the Midwest too. I have a few clients that were in Arizona, one or two also in Florida recently. And to get in touch with me is very easy. I'm all over social media as best I humanly can, obviously. And I've recently changed it where it's a free 15-minute consultation at the very beginning. Someone gets in touch with me. They give me their email address. I send them the questionnaire information and some information about me so they understand exactly what I do. So it's super clear because I want to make sure everything's crystal clear. I'm allergic to issues. I don't do issues.
Yes, I agree.
So, and then they fill out the questionnaire, and then I can give them the 15 minutes with some information or a lot, hopefully, in terms of a plan and so on and so forth. And I have no problem giving, more consultations than not, because if it empowers people, it empowers people. And that really is why I'm doing this, is to truly try and give value to people. Um, I realize that, people can look at me and say, oh, he's this or he's that. My background isn't necessarily what it looks like. And so I'm very aware in terms of underlying situations, people. Okay, I apologize. Just now, another phone call. Someone probably needed my help, actually. And I'll go to voicemail. I'll call them back afterwards. I apologize for that. So you can hear me also, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, just making sure. It was muted for a second or two. So, I have no problem, like I said, giving back more than receiving, because the ultimate goal is to help. And people, especially in Florida, are like, yeah, I could have used you 5 or 10 years ago, or yeah, I know something to do now. And unfortunately, there's resistance because they look and they say, oh, but you still work for New York. And so unfortunately, for that reason, I don't do anything in New York right now. But people are like, well, you work for New York, and well, I'm not sure. Can I trust you, or whatever? And look, I get it. I hear them. I try and meet them where they are. There's some people that they're gonna see what they see and hear what they hear, and I apologize even publicly now for that, because I didn't do nothing wrong, but at the same time, I would love to be able to help them.
But you
But
can't help everybody.
that's also true. I would like to say that you're wrong, but you were correct.
Yeah, you can't. You want to. I experienced the same thing. I want to help everybody to heal, but everybody does not want it, or they're
Yeah,
not ready, or they're
yeah,
not wanting to invest.
yeah, yeah,
And so it's all kinds of other reasons why as well,
yeah,
but you just can't help everybody because
yeah.
everybody ain't ready. Just
No,
like
I
you
hear
said,
you.
you meet them where they are,
Yeah,
and you try to, make them understand that this is something that, you're doing because you know that it's necessary because you've been doing this work,
Yeah,
and you know
yeah,
that people need, some help, and they
yeah,
may not be able to get an attorney, and then the attorney may not, really know,
yeah. Well, that's
the things
yeah,
that you know.
yeah, and that's an important point. Um, I always tell people, well, my advice is if they think they need an attorney, get an attorney. I will never tell someone not to go with getting an attorney if that's what they feel need, etc. But for me, there's sort of a gap in the timeline of a child welfare or child protection investigation where lawyers, not all obviously, but lawyers, especially family lawyers, they don't always know the ins and outs of child welfare or child protection. They don't always know certain pieces, and where things can get really, I apologize, another
Mhm.
person trying to call me. So where things can get interesting is the parent is obviously going to follow the advice of the lawyer as they should. I will obviously they always supposed to do that, but, and here's the big but, and this is where a real conversation needs to happen with the lawyer, whoever they've hired, is the investigator needs to get certain documents, or they need to have the parent come for a meeting in their office if there's a concern or they claim there's a concern. And if the attorney tells the parent don't go, there can be issues. That doesn't mean the person should ignore their attorney. Again, being very clear, attorneys run the show, but the attorney needs to understand that if the client doesn't go, the investigator is supposed to go to court afterwards. And once it's in that judge's hands and the judge sees whatever, before the parent or family, whoever can like defend themselves, things can get tricky really quickly. And so I'm glad you pointed that out, because that really is an important piece that as a PSA to everybody, lawyers, family, anybody, these things are very important to know. And not everyone knows it because the child welfare world is quite closed off. So
I was going to say why, and that was my question too. Why wouldn't the attorney know these things? I mean, does child welfare have to communicate with the attorney, or how does that work?
so it gets tricky and interesting. So I'm going to try and not be technical, and if I do, please cut me off. So the way it works is the investigators are not supposed to communicate really with the parents' attorneys or the children's attorneys unless the investigator's attorney, the government attorney, really tells them they can. But it's almost rare, doesn't usually happen. So then there's the issue of the parents saying, well, I have an attorney, call my attorney. And then the investigator goes, well, I can call the attorney. And so you have that back and forth. And there's obviously a need for information so they can fully investigate things and everything else. But in terms of the lawyers, a lot of family lawyers will do primarily divorce, primarily separation, mediation, whatever lawyers do. I'm not a lawyer. But at the same time, they don't always know, or they have very few cases. Remember, unfortunately, child welfare does unfortunately affect those who don't have means, really, like we mentioned before. Okay. And so if you have means, you get a lawyer. And if you have means, you know how to protect yourself, or you've read, or you tried, or whatever, and you're more likely to possibly get treatment because of your status or your skin color or your neighborhood or whatever, and or because you've educated yourself, you've asked around, or whatever the case is. And so if you have the lawyer, you're probably further up the chain. And so it's a different dynamic where those who need it, maybe it's a public defender. And a lot of public defenders understand the basics, but they also might say, well, just give the child welfare investigator, the child protective specialist, give them whatever they ask for. And I've heard that a few times, very rare, but I've heard it, which is another reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, what sort of propelled me to get this company going and to help people, is because most people are well intentioned, but sometimes a small fact here and there can throw things off. That's one main area and reason as to why there are concerns when it comes to family lawyers. Not They usually know a lot, but they don't know all the ins and outs, and that's where things happen. The other end of it is, as investigators, we're trained to gather information, not give information, right? So
Gotcha.
and there's also other aspects that affect mindset or whatever the case is, the investigator, as to them not saying things or not giving over things. It doesn't mean they're not cooperative, they're not professional, they're not whatever. They're professional, they're cooperative, whatever, but they can't give over a certain piece of information, procedure or whatever. So,
That sounds scandalous.
well, I wouldn't go that. And I hear you. I know you're making a joke, and I appreciate that. I do. I hear the humor, but I wouldn't go in the scandalous. I would say that, and this is an important piece also. I'm glad you sort of got me thinking. We're talking about kids, right?
Yes.
And if anyone who has a heart hears in the news, oh, a child died, or a child was hurt, or
Yes.
child welfare was involved, or child care specialist was involved, and they did nothing, okay? I can tell you it's usually not nothing. They're usually trying the best they can, but there's just these layers that affect how the investigator, can go, and also the media. Sorry, back to the media. I apologize. So for the media, right? They're going to hype things. So with that hype, people react, a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, child's hurt. Oh, child died. Who had that case? What's going on? Yada, yada, yada. They want a comment from the PR people of that agency, and so on and so forth. And so people usually get these knee-jerk reactions of, well, the people are being investigated internally or whatever it is. And that's fine to learn from one's mistakes, but not in terms of knee-jerk reaction, and to not see things for where they are. What are the systemic concerns, and so on and so forth. And that's really important, is not just to cast sort of blame or shame the investigator. If they deserve it, that's not for me to say. That's obviously internal pieces. But ultimately, the goal is to try and avoid it happening in the future. And you only do those things by being proactive, open-minded, asking the right questions with the right mindset to begin with. It boils down to how we sort of began, the show, in terms of healing, unleashing everything. You have to have the open mindset. You have to have open questions. You have to sort of see things and accept things, with complete openness. You have to be real, accepting, wide-eyed, so to speak. So, it's a concern, and a valid concern. So.
Yeah, this is true. So we're gonna wind it up. If there's one more piece of advice or information that you'd like to share, and then tell people how they can connect with you. And also that stuff will also be in the description of the video, audio, wherever you're listening or watching this. So that'll be in there, but William is going to give us one more piece of advice or information, and also share where you can connect with him if you are looking to get his help, or if you know somebody that needs it.
Sure. So thank you for that. So I would say the biggest sort of caveat or takeaway is there's always a middle ground. There's always you catch more bees with honey than vinegar. There's always a middle ground to sort of figure things out. Just because the investigator says you have to do a service plan a certain way, I don't know all the ins and outs. There's lots of nuances, but at the same time, chances are you'll have to do what they're asking you to do. The question is, can you find something that works for your schedule? Can you find things that work for you? It's the same thing when they knock on your door, right? You have the right to say certain things. You have the right to talk, as long as you're respectful and you work things out. Again, middle ground, bees with honey. It's a very big deal. It doesn't mean, again, give in. It does mean empowerment and knowing how to empower yourself. That really, really, I cannot stress that enough. It's the empowerment piece. Because look, they have a job to do, and they can't say no. They can't keep the door closed forever. They have to see the kids. They have to ask their questions. They have to do what they have to do. But there's a way in which to engage that, to meet people at that middle point on both ends, right? Because fair is fair. Things have to happen, but things can be done a certain way. So that really is, one of a few, but that's the main caveat. To reach me, I'd like to say I'm everywhere, but I'm not. I'm human. But at the same time, I am on Instagram. It's C_P_strategy. It's the same thing with Twitter. But the main place to reach me, that you'll get me right away, is going to be on Facebook, and it's going to be on my phone, which is ringing nonstop. which is both good and bad. I want to help people, but unfortunately, there's not that much of a need. So no, I mean, fair is fair, truth is truth. So the best way, I guess, is probably phone or text or whatever, so they can call me. The numbers for the East Coast, I'm just reading it off here, so forgive me. The numbers for the East Coast is 347-9 CPS or 347-9-277-277. If you're on the West Coast or in the Bay Area, it's 510-905 CPS or 510-905-4277. And then for the South, Florida can call either one, doesn't really matter. But for the South, it's 5734 CPS or 5734-277-277. And then on Facebook, it's William Kesselman. You'll find me there. I go by Will, but William is fine. And there's different groups that I have on Facebook also to help give people strategies and information. It's not just me trying to, say, hourly rates and this, that, and the third. I do try and give value, caveats, information that people can go and look on their own and empower themselves.
Yes.
So there's actually two Facebook groups, pages, two Facebook pages. I want to be respectful and accurate. And there's my profile as well. And again, please, by all means, anyone who sees this, whatever, I have no problem providing you with information on CPS procedure. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but again, CPS procedure is what I do. So.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, 14 years is a long time to be doing that, especially in the great state of New York.
Yeah.
I can only just imagine some of the cases that you've seen. And maybe we'll come back and actually explore some of that, because that was something I wanted to touch on, but we didn't get a chance because this was such good information and so many people need it. And I felt like, especially, I wanted to have you on, especially so that people in the BIPOC community can see you and see, what it is that you're doing. And so if they need, help, they can reach out, because, a lot of times, historically it's been a challenge, and CPS has historically been a trip. I actually heard a story about how they went to try to take this woman's kids. She had like 10, 11 kids, and they went to try to take her kids because her husband passed away. This was like in the probably 1900s, early and stuff like that. And it's like, no, she was like, no. And she was not going to allow them to take her kids. And so she got her gun. Yeah. Wow. And they left. But the thing is these are the type of stories that we know, and this is what we have heard. And so over the years, it's hard to, put those walls down, and it's hard to trust people when, these are the type of things that we've had historically. So just you coming on here and speaking about it and talking about how you are available to help, especially people in those marginal communities, to get the representation that they need, and to help them to be able to cooperate with the CPS and be able to get their case, handled. So thank you so much for joining me. It's just been a pleasure. I have truly enjoyed it. And I'm going to have to actually have you back again, because this was so good. I want to bring more stuff out. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And if you are having an issue with CPS, or somebody that is having an issue that needs help and could use some guidance, maybe you reach out to William and he'll help you with some guidance on, even little things that you can do, because this is not a situation that people deal with every day. And so nobody has taught us how to do it. I mean, it's not like we were in school and they said, okay, when you have a problem with your kids, or, somebody's called CPS, because there are times where that stuff is crazy and ludicrous, but we haven't had any type of reference, to know how to deal with that. And so some of the things that I read in your book was something, because, even if a person comes and say they're tired, they worked all day, they're just like you said, the kids are screaming and yelling in the house, because that's what kids do, but people come in and they make judgment calls and stuff, oh, well, this person has an anger issue. No, they just might be tired, and those kids are getting the hell on their nerves, so So it could be that.
Yeah.
And then, you have
Yeah.
somebody coming and saying, no, well, you gotta go get anger management and all that and pile some more stuff on your
Yeah.
already busy
Yeah.
schedule.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, oh my God, really,
Yeah.
is this what's happening here?
And
You
even
know?
situations like domestic violence or bullying and teasing in schools, and
Yes.
the school misreads the whole thing.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
all these different things that I'm able to help guide people in.
Yes.
But yes.
And that's
Yeah,
exciting. And so we're gonna close it down.
no worries.
But yeah,
No worries.
so if you have any of these type of issues, Will is here sharing his heart and telling you that he is here to help. And he really has a heart. I can feel it. He has a heart to help people in these situations because he's done it for 14 years and he's seen, what happens and how people respond and all that.
Yeah.
And I believe he probably got a book that he can write, like a big book that he can write, to share some of his experiences to help people. So again, thank you so much for joining me, Will.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna get out of here, but thank you guys for watching us today on Straight Outta Savannah, talking with Tammi, or listening, whatever platform you're listening to it on or watching. The descriptions in the video is going to be all about Will, what he does and who he is and how you can connect with him. Same thing with the audio. So again, thank you for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah, talking with Tammi. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.